as I was throwing back some Bennett's fries here,
Mm-hmm.
what exactly did I say yesterday that we need to talk about?
Well, you were on the morning roast,
Yeah.
and they asked you about Vivek Ranadive,
Mm,
and you talked about how did a great job, by the way.
thank you.
But you talked about how nobody's really talking about Vivek after all that went down, all that they
Yeah.
talked about for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Now, when they win, don't nobody want to mention Vivek.
I,
He has a
I
story,
was gonna say that was.
article out.
I promise this was all prior to the Mark Spears article
Yeah,
dropping.
he's got an article. I didn't read the article yet, but yeah, Vivek needs his flowers. Absolutely
I,
needs his flowers because he got raked over the coals for this entire time, and much like De'Aaron Fox, Monty McNair, Mike Brown, the streak started before Vivek got here.
mm-hmm,
Vivek broke the streak. He broke it.
mm-hmm.
He deserves his flowers. That's all I needed to say.
Yeah. Someone I like on Twitter tweeted something about the article about Vivek's conversation with Mark Spears.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something. That's why I'm not saying the person. It's just because I'm completely paraphrasing. It was like, oh, he just couldn't help himself. He could have said this, but he just couldn't help himself. And all I could think was, if like it's still amazing to me that people refuse to connect these dots. Y'all said leading into the draft, everyone wanted Jaden Ivey. All of the basketball people that you have loved, you have grown to love so much, that we have grown to love so much, wanted Jaden Ivey. Every article said that. But someone who has ties to this city, who talks to the same three people in this city, said, well, the wild card is if Vivek Ranadive gets his way, it's going to be Keegan Murray. That was out the gate.
Yep.
That wasn't as we got closer to the draft. That was out the gate. Keegan Murray was labeled as Vivek Ranadive's guy. The closer we got, it started to be, hey, yo, Keegan's kind of dope. He can go. Then you started to hear the Vivek label, shed a little bit. Still out there, shed a little bit. Draft day, I didn't hear anything about Vivek Ranadive in Keegan Murray. I didn't hear anything about Keegan Murray being a Vivek Ranadive guy.
Mm-hmm.
When Keegan Murray hit his 203, I didn't hear anything about Keegan Murray being a Vivek Ranadive guy. And you pointed this out perfectly. By the way, who the hell is winning Coach of the Year? Mike Brown's winning Coach of the Year. It's amazing. Whose side was the basketball people on? Wasn't it Mike Brown's side?
Mm-hmm.
And if Vivek Ranadive would got his way, it would be Mark Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Who did the Kings get as their coach?
Mike Brown.
Oh, so okay. So let's put this all together. You said this perfectly a year ago. Every single time Vivek Ranadive is on the wrong side. Every single time there is a perceived consensus.
Mm-hmm.
Vivek is always on the wrong side. Oh,
How?
finally, he let basketball people make basketball decisions. So Mike Brown got the job. Okay. Don't think we forgot how many of you bitched about that. But it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And your beloved basketball people got to hire their coach. Nobody said anything about Keegan. Nobody said anything about the guy who actually fired Mike Malone. I'm not saying Vivek Ranadive hasn't made mistakes as the owner of the Sacramento Kings. Mm-hmm. I'm saying Vivek Ranadive hasn't made the amount of mistakes that you think he has made as the owner of the Sacramento Kings. When your organization is a failure at the level for the length of time that the Sacramento Kings have been, you have to look at the top. When organizations fail, you can blame coaches, you can blame general managers, and I hope Mike Brown, who I love, and Monty McNair, who I love, Wes Wilcox, all of those guys, I hope they can all respect this term I'm about to use. You don't blame middle management
Mm.
over and over and over and over again.
Mhm.
When middle management is constantly wrong, there's something wrong with the person doing the hiring.
Yeah.
Vivek has made his mistakes. He just hasn't made nearly as many as some of you have made it out to be.
Right.
And the fact that some people believe that he didn't even do this interview right shows you how jaded some people's opinions are on Vivek Ranadive, because you will literally believe anything that has his name attached to it, as long as it's bad.
Mm-hmm. And what he said wasn't even that bad. He made a reference to, this time I was involved, because in the past they said I was always involved and I really wasn't. So I said I might as well get involved. And there's nothing wrong with that.
It's his company.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, every single time there's a side to be taken, how does the reports always come out that he's on the wrong side?
Always. 10 times out of 10.
And that's just the consensus, like you mentioned. When he was on the perceived wrong side this time with Keegan Murray, we don't hear nothing about it no more.
Nothing. It's awfully quiet.
I'm just all for just being fair to the guy. But Vivek ain't, as far as I know. Maybe there's in-depth things that I don't know, but he ain't done nothing to nobody. He's invested in the city. He's invested in this entire area.
I'm glad you brought that up. Can we point out one more thing? Because at one point, Vivek, I don't remember if Vivek was labeled as the worst owner in sports.
I think it was the NBA.
Worst owner in the NBA. All these social justice initiatives that happened in the NBA in 2020, Vivek started those prior to 2020. Vivek started social justice movements before Black Lives Mattered. Remember that brief fleeting period in the summer of 2020 where Black Lives Matter? Yeah. Vivek did it before that. Vivek, and I don't remember his name, but the owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, those two organizations were the catalyst behind what we saw. Like it or not, Mark Cuban was a big part of it too. And when you look at all of that stuff, you can't tell the story of Vivek Ranadive without telling the story of what he's done in the community, without telling the story of what he has done for social justice initiatives, without telling the story of how he influenced a great deal of the NBA, and without telling the story of how he has gotten one of the baddest community organizers in this city to head his DEI department for the Sacramento Kings.
100%. You were there, or you were really close to the situation the night of the Stephon Clark protest. But tell me if I'm wrong, without hesitation, Vivek, what you guys need me to do? I'm not here worried about the bottom line. Like, what do you need? What can I do?
Yes.
I see what's going on outside. What can I do?
Yes and no. Yes, he met with he wanted to know what to do. No, in the sense of his shining moment, arguably as an owner, was that speech. That was not his intention. He asked Garrett to do it. And I think he might have asked Vince and Garrett to do it.
I thought Vince was involved.
And both of them were like, no, you need to do it. You do it. Yeah. It'll mean more coming from you. And he did. And again, arguably, that was his shining moment, at least in front of the camera. That was his shining moment as the Sacramento Kings owner.
What he said that night, to relate to the community and everything, he's walked the walk every step of the way since then. He didn't do it for a couple months and then fell back and no. He's been doing it the entire time. So these are stuff like when you talk about worst owner in basketball, these are things out and encompass being an owner. Like if you win and you're terrible in the community, terrible in your city, got scandals all over the place, does that make you a good owner? Because on the opposite, it makes you a bad. Like if you do everything good for your city and the community and everything you can to invest and uplift this city, but you don't win, that makes you the worst owner. So if it's flipped, that means you're the best, right? Like that's how asinine does that sound? If you win, win games. If your team wins games, because Robert Sarver showed you the team is winning. He's terrible. Like he's doing
He's gone.
wrong stuff left and right, and they're winning. But that makes him good, right? So I've never understood the whole Vivek thing. And now you get in a situation where they've ended the drought. They've made the playoffs. And don't nobody want to give him his flowers after all the craziness they talked about him for years, and how there were plenty of people who said this team ain't never going to do nothing as long as he's an owner. They'll never win. They'll never get there. Vivek better than me. I'd be on 13, 10, 3, all of them. Ain't gonna be no written interview with me. You're gonna see me.
No.
I'm gonna take you to the top of the beam. That's what we do in the interview.
I'll point this out too. You're listening to D-Lo and KC on KIFM West Sacramento, 98.5 FM, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320. Always live on the free Odyssey app. I know how much the Monarchs mean to Zebra PT. Zebra PT says, lagging on that Monarchs promise, though. I don't think he ever made that promise. I know that it's popular out there. I don't think he ever said it. I feel like I had this discussion on Twitter before, and John Bull, who you unceremoniously blocked from the chat earlier, sent me like we think we tracked it down. It wasn't from Vivek. The conversation, it might have been from Kevin Johnson. It could have just been from some person who was involved in the process, but wasn't a decision maker like Vivek. Vivek never promised to bring the Sacramento Monarchs back. I wish he would. I wish he would, but he never he didn't promise that.
Yeah.
And if he did, we can't find an article, a video, a news story, anything that says the opposite.
Yeah.
So if you have it, tag us in it because we didn't see it.
And Zebra PT says he was standing right there. He said it. If he said it,
okay. I missed it, and I don't know that there's any trace of it on the internet.
And also, to be fair to him, some of that is out of his control. He can want the Monarchs back all he wants. They're not even expanding right now.
Yeah.
And if they are expanding,
the league hasn't it. The league is an important part in that.
Yeah, they already tell you where they're looking. And unfortunately, Sacramento not on there.
And that's the thing. It's true that I know it's frustrating thinking about the Bay Area getting a WNBA team. There were rumblings, when Sacramento was in existence about a Bay Area team. When the league was at the time, the league thought there was significant growth ahead of them. That's turned out to very much not be the case. But there were the Bay Area thing has long been discussed. So it sucks that if the Kings land, if the league lands a West Coast team, it's probably going to be in the Bay Area. I don't know if that's Oakland or San Francisco or some sort of hybrid between the two, but all appearances are it's not Sacramento.
Yeah, just I heard you talking about that yesterday because Bonte and Butch asked you about it, and you spoke on it perfectly. And it was like, yeah, man, like he needed at least 10 minutes to get his flowers because he didn't have to wear it. And the one thing I'll say about Vivek, everybody say about Vivek, James Ham will tell you, he's there every night. He's there every night. And he boos or he was there the night throw up guy happened. Like he was there. He sits there in the seats and he takes it all. And now you got success and don't nobody want to mention him. Part of the territory, part of the nature of the beast in that situation. I get that, but nah, man, just wanted to salute.